All right, so we've been working on this conceptual mass. So let's go ahead and take a look at these points and what we can do with these points to make it a little, to control those. So let me go ahead and I'm going to make this bottom circle a little smaller so I can see the base of this guy. So I'm going to open up my Family Talks dialog box, and that would be radius 3 in this one. So I'm just going to make this 5 feet and hit apply. Oops. It would be radius 1. So let's make that 5 feet and apply. Right, so I've kind of got that base back. So the rectangle is sitting on this point for the base. So what can you do with the points? If I come in and I pick this point, so maybe go into wireframe, it will be easier. Like you see, there's the point. Let's look at the parameters. What can I do with it? I can move it up and down the line. So right now it's at 0.22. If I put it at 0, right, it'll move that whole thing down to the bottom. Or I can move it back up to 0.25, right, and it'll move it up. So you can adjust that. You can also parameterize that. I'm not going to. I'm going to leave this guy set maybe at, let's just leave it at 0.15. So no matter how tall that line gets, this point is going to be at 0.15. You can actually change this to a distance, but the normalized curve works really well. Sometimes, for various reasons we can talk about later, it will break when you actually use a real distance from end. So what's the other thing that you can do? Well, you can rotate it. So if I rotate this, let's say 25 degrees, the whole thing rotates. So now if I go to my shaded, you see that whole thing starting to twist. So if I go in and do it 45, right, it starts to twist even more. So I do want to put a parameter on that guy. So if I go back to wireframe, making sure I'll click off the point, and then I'll come in. You can, there's multiple ways to pick the point. You can window around it. You could also do a crossing box, and if you get a bunch of things selected, you can go to the filter and check none and just pick the reference point, and it'll select it, because that will give you the properties over here. You have to have just it selected for the properties. Now the rotation angle, you can come over here, and there is really no angle to pick like a dimension, so this little gray box allows you to put a parameter on it. So I'm going to left click on this gray box, pull it over here, and then go to new parameter. And so I'm just going to put this one at A1. Okay. And click OK. Click OK. And then I'll go do this one at A2. Notice I could assign actually A1 so they would always be the same, but I'm going to have a separate parameter so I can control it separately, right? And then this one I'll put A3. And let's go ahead and go back to shaded. And I'll open up my dialog box. And so now I have all of these. So I could change this to, 15. Right? So now it's twisting that guy up there 15 degrees. Or I could put a formula in it that makes it twist evenly. However you want to do that. I think you kind of get the point. I am going to, however, pick this little guy. And let's just move it to 1, because it's not at the end of the line. We might as well move that all the way up, right? So it's at the top of the line. The last thing I'm going to do is I think I'm going to put a little base on it that it sits on, and this is kind of up to you. Revit will allow you to, if I go in, I'm hovering over the edge of the form, and it's showing me the chain of lines, the profile, but if I hit my tab key, it'll go through and select all the different possible options, and eventually I'll get to that base, right? So I just tab through and then left clicked where I got that base, so that's selected, and I'm just going to go to create form. Oh, and it can't do it because the void is in it. So let me go ahead and delete the void real quick. Let me go ahead, do that. I'll delete that. All right. And we can make it back really easily, right? So now if I go through and tab select and create form, it will actually create it. So it couldn't create it when the void was in it. And then I want this form to sit on the base, on that level 1. So I'm going to use a command called align. So in the modify, there is an align command. So I'm going to pick align, and I'm going to pick that base, so that's that level 1. And the second thing I pick, it's going to move it to that. So you see it move it up, and then I'm going to lock it. So now that is locked to that base, right? So I think, let's go ahead and recreate the void, right? So there's that guy back again, right? And then when we come back, we'll do the material parameter.